Hello everyone, welcome to my channel about writing stuff. My name's Camille and today we're going to do things a little bit differently. I have been geeking out and fangirling a little bit. I've been researching the Inklings, which for those of you who don't know, it was the writing group / literary discussion group that both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were in their day. And if you haven't read up on them, I suggest you do a little bit of research. It's a very interesting thing to sort of dig into. So in my research, I started to think kind of critically just about both of their work, and I kind of noticed this very similar I guess similar plot point in both the Fellowship of the Ring and the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I love, and I was super excited to have figured this out. And I'm really trying to adapt these sorts of things in my own work. So today, it's the video is just going to be me philosophizing about this particular plot point. So it's the first plot point, or rather it's plot turn 1 in their story. So it's the scene that's about at the 20% mark where the whole story sort of shifts. So, you know, in reference to the stories, it's the scene in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe where Lucy realizes, like, all of her siblings are finally in Narnia, and they finally believe her. It's like, oh yay, her sister's not crazy. Narnia's real. But moreover, it's when she realizes that Mr. Tumnus has been taken and that Edmund's gone. And then in the Fellowship of the Ring, this is the scene during the Secret Council where Frodo finally stands up and says, "I will take the ring to Mordor." And the point of this video, I'm going to reference the movies because it's a little bit more commonplace, just trying to cover my bases. I'm pretty sure more people have seen the movies than have read the books. So what I love about this first plot turn in both of these stories is that it is just this culmination of all of these different emotions that you get as the reader, just sort of piled on top of each other, and they're conflicting, which is a very strong sensation to have these two powerful, conflicting emotions while you're reading. And that's what I can't talk. I'm too excited. See, this is what happens when I'm too excited. I can't talk. These two warring emotions, for me, are what propel me into the rest of the story. And there are several authors that do this well, but, I mean, come on. Tolkien and Lewis are kind of the masters here. And, you know, what's great about this, too, is, you know, Tolkien wrote these epic secondary world fantasies, and Lewis wrote the middle grade kind of children's stories, but these stories do the same thing. So how does this happen? How do we get through like 20% of a story and then have these super strong conflicting emotions about these characters? And it all has to do with the setup. So as I go through this video, I'm going to kind of pick out the points that I think are relevant, and hopefully that will help you guys adapt this sort of epicness into your own story. So at the beginning of both The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and The Fellowship of the Ring, the story starts with that normal. You know, they're both worlds with fantastical elements, but these authors do a really great job of bringing the reader into the story by having the reader relate to this sort of normal. You know, for Lucy, it's her and her siblings are going to live with this quiet, shut-in relative, but that's pretty normal. You know, we're still in our world, and there are everyday things we can relate to, whereas with Frodo, we see him in the Shire, which, you know, it's in a fantasy world, but the Shire is very much like our world. You know, people sit and eat and drink and tell stories and have a good time. And that's what we see first, is we get to see these characters in their normal or in their new normal. And then enters the fantastic element, which is a great way to bring someone into the story. For Lucy, she goes into the wardrobe the first time. She goes into Narnia, she meets Mr. Tumnus, and there's just so much mystery there already that it's very enticing to get to that fantastical element. Whereas with Frodo in the movie, we see Bilbo disappear with the ring, and then Gandalf gives Frodo the ring, and then there's that air of mystery again, which is very intriguing. And at this point, it doesn't have so much to do with the character, then it has to do with the hook. This is, here's the normal, but here's something fantastic and mysterious and enticing. And we're going to keep all of those answers to these questions that you have out of reach for now. And then we get into what I call the wave of anxiety. It's for Lucy, and this at this point the stories differ a little bit, because for Lucy, she gets back from Narnia, and what does she do? She tells her siblings about it, but no time has passed and no one believes her. Obviously, it's you fell into a magical wardrobe. Let's go check. Oh, Narnia's not in there. You're just crazy kid making up stories. Whereas with Frodo, it's, Gandalf comes back and says, hello, this is the one ring to rule them all. Like, shit's for real gonna go downhill from here because this should not be here and this is all bad, and huge wave of anxiety. But we don't know the danger of these things yet. It's just, it's piling on the, oh, what is this fantastical element? Oh, now I'm getting anxious, and this is where it starts to tie into the character. It's the fantastical element really hooks you in, but it's not until your characters start to feel that anxiety and that worry that we start to care for the characters. So after that, piled on top of all that anxiety, comes the wave of danger. So in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Lucy gets into Narnia again, but then Edmund comes, and we see Edmund with the White Queen, and Mr. Tumnus is telling Lucy about the White Queen. We hear about how it's always winter but never Christmas, and we really see how evil the White Queen is. So there's that wave of anxiety, and now the dread. Whereas for Frodo, he and Sam need to take the ring, get it to Bree, but they are then pursued by the Black Riders, and we see this evil incarnate, and we feel the characters panic and worry as they are running from the Black Riders and being pursued and all of these things. So now we're really invested in these characters because we saw their normal, we got hooked in with the fantastical element, we felt their worry and their panic and their anxiety, and now there is the danger that really makes us care for them. But then we get that take a breath, wave of relief, which is paramount because, if you have these really strong emotions like the anxiety and the danger of these characters, you don't just want to pile more of that on top of these characters right from the get-go. You need that break, that wave of relief. And the wave of relief in these stories is that, for Lucy, it's her siblings finally go into Narnia, that she is believed and all of this stuff. And it's just, yes, finally, they know it's real. Now we get to explore Narnia. And then for Frodo, it's, yes, he made it to Rivendell and he's not dead. The ring did not fall into enemy hands. I am such Lord of the Rings patriot. Anyway, so there's this wave of relief. These characters they're safe, they're believed, and there are people coming and rallying to their sides. For Lucy, it's her siblings. For Frodo, it's the elves and everyone that's going to come to the secret council. But then immediately after, And this is the big one. Immediately after that wave of relief, we are slammed in the throat with this impending dread. And I love this. And this is where these conflicting emotions come into accord with one another. You have this intense relief, and then suddenly Frodo stands up and says, I will take the ring to Mordor. And you're like, no, we know what the danger is, and we care about you. This is so bad. And then for Lucy, it's, we find out that Edmund and Mr. Tumnus are gone, and Peter's like, okay, Lucy, you're a little girl. You need to go back into the real world where you're safe. And she's like, no, I'm coming with you. And you're just like, no, Lucy, you're a little girl. You're going to die. You need to go back to the real world where you're safe. So it's relief and then intense dread, just conflicting within you as the reader. But what's even more powerful is that you realize that this was inevitable, right? You go from this relief and then this panic dread, when Frodo stands up, when Lucy talks back to Peter, but you're like, yes, I'm dreading this because something bad is going to happen. So of course something bad is going to happen to this character that I've come to love in such a short amount of time, but it was inevitable. And that's what we're excited for. That's what propels you as the reader into the rest of the story. Because if Frodo didn't stand up and someone else said, oh yeah, I'll take the ring to Mordor, and then, Frodo just goes back to the Shire, or if Lucy stood up and said, yeah, Peter, you're right, I should just go back to the real world where I'm safe because I'm a child and I don't belong here, that would be such a letdown. And it's just such a powerful scene in both stories that are vastly different. But the buildup is so great, and we go from seeing this normal to seeing this fantastical element to being able to worry and care and come to love these characters. And then it's just this culmination of these warring emotions, which is just so powerful. And I love it. So, sorry for going on a super fangirl tangent, but like I said, I'm really passionate about the sort of storytelling, and it's just so good, and I really hope that a lot of you guys can watch this video and hopefully adapt this sort of awesome storytelling into your own books. So that's all I've got for you on this bonus video. If you enjoy this sort of thing, picking apart some of these epic tales, or if you have a favorite story you would like me to kind of dig into or pick apart, or if you would like to just have a discussion with me about, the stories that just so much geekiness for, then drop a comment below. I would love to geek out with you about some of these awesome tales. But in the meantime, we all should be writing stuff.